Hello one, hello all, this is the most utopian ghost of them all, Caspa in the flesh, and it's time for a review of Travis Scott, Utopia. Travis Scott is a rapper, singer, songwriter, producer, and this is his fourth studio album. Travis Scott hit the scene had to have been over a decade now with a couple mixtapes I didn't exactly care for, such as Owl Pharaoh, Days Before Rodeo. But when I got Rodeo, I was immensely satisfied. This was the magnum opus for Travis. He had revolutionized trap music with this one. I was blown away by the hooks. I was blown away by the production. I was just astounded by how he was able to transition one track to another and make them cohesively great together, and the collabs were like fireworks. I was basically astounded. I was just amazed on how great that album was. I felt like it was a new beginning for Travis. And then we got Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight, which was definitely not it. Definitely his worst one by far, where there is no transitions, the lyrics were awful, very underwhelming project. And then we had Astroworld, which it was better than Birds in the Trap. I did see improvement. But then we got tracks where Travis Scott wasn't exactly up to par when it came with the solo tracks. And there were some features that left a lot to be desired as well. And then we had news that Utopia was on the way, but then we tragically got the crowd crush Astroworld tragedy that took the lives of so many. My thoughts and prayers go out to those who were lost in that tragedy. And at that point, Travis pretty much took the hiatus after that. He was pretty much more focused on paying the funerals of the families. And honestly, I felt like he handled that part well. And then for a while, we didn't really get much of Utopia. But then we started getting singles from Utopia, which I was underwhelmed by. Unfortunately, I was not digging these singles going into this. But once I heard the album, once I gave it a few listens, I was honestly satisfied with what I got as a result. I don't think this is a perfect album, but this album definitely has its highlights. To say this doesn't have its highlights, you would be lying to yourself. The album starts off hands down with one of the absolute most bizarre bangers that Travis Scott has whipped together. Starting off with one of the most bizarre layered vocals I've probably heard a Travis Scott album kick off with. And we go into this with the most outlandish West Coast style production on here that sounds like atmospheric lowrider music, with these jingly yet sinister synths over this headbanging clunky production that again just makes me think of the most wildest lowrider style music video set to the future in a dystopian land. Travis delivers such a range of charismatic flows on here. He is going. While this faint choir is going on in the background, Travis is basically touching on his grind, his accomplishments, and lyrically coming through with some clever bars here. More than a handful of clever bars land on this from Travis. Yes, I said it. Write a show by myself like Chelsea Handler, or write a series about my bitches like Kelsey Grammer. With this humming to warped bass and swelling sirens evolving into this gorgeous, blissful outro. The track Thank God starts with these icy, twinkling synths, with this impulsive rush of distorted bass in between this cavernous display of choral vocals. And they're just so anthemic, and it sounds so dismal with these gorgeous sets of strings set over the trap production. And then getting these, I believe they're synth horns, and they just sound so grand. Yet we get another quotable from Travis on here. A quarterback calls, I don't like 12 unless it's Tom Brady. Now, I'm not much of a sports fan, but hell yes to this bar. So yes, admittedly, Travis Scott has improved lyrically, for sure. At least in terms of quotables, and I do find that very refreshing in comparison to what we were getting on the last few albums. And don't get me wrong, I do love Rodeo, but I feel like lyrically, Travis was not in his bag yet. But on here, I think he's definitely sharpened his craft. Not to mention, he respectfully holds his own whenever he has a solo on here. Normally, on his past efforts, he has always shined with a feature. But on here, he is shining with no feature whatsoever. There are features on this, but the tracks that he excels on, he actually does well by himself. So yes, it is true, a feature could make or break a Travis Scott song. But the next song, we get an excellent feature from Tizo Touchdown on here. Track Modern Jam that has this relentless bass and snappy beat. It sounds old school, but it's definitely modern. But no, seriously, this honestly sounds like a better version of I Am a God. I know I'm probably gonna piss off the Ye fans with that one, but it's true. Yeezus had a couple good songs on it, but I Am a God was not one of them. It's like it's been Pablo-fied. And Tizo Touchdown gives us the most theatrical, most eccentric vocals I've probably ever heard him do. I remember when I first saw him, I was like, you know what? He has a look, but I don't think he's that eccentric. But on here, he is just letting it out, letting it fly, and I am just loving it. They're so bellowing, they're so yelpy, they're so out there, and I just dig them. These glamorous nocturnal synths just shining across the track, and in the background, Travis is doing like these animated Bootsy Collins-esque vocals. The Annihilator, forever favor. And the following track, My Eyes, has like this dream-like sequence production. The chords are very Postal Service in a way. If I was to give you like an exact description, it's like the equivalent of watching a flickering flame or opening up your eyes on like a bright morning, seeing the sunset after partying your ass off and passing out from the night before, to the most beautiful sunlight you've probably ever seen. Hey kids, don't look at the sun. It's so hypnotic, but it's almost dystopian in a way. It's so beautiful and it's intoxicating you once again. These synths and a whole bunch of vocal effects just ranging together. And then we get an appearance from Sampha, and his vocals sound gorgeous on here. And then goes into like this dark, cold trap switch up. And honestly, it's dope to hear him go into the light and then the dark. Like, he brings you the warmth and then he brings you the cold right after. And I would say, like, we're definitely getting those epic switch ups again, and we're definitely getting a little trippier on here than we have in the last few albums, and I'm digging that. I'm digging the new path to trippiness on here. God's Country, which is the shortest track on here, but still a highlight. I love the eerie vocal melodies. La 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 la. Sounding like one of the most creepiest lullabies you'll probably ever hear in your life. It's like a haunted kids choir in a dystopian future. And I know I use that word a lot, but trust me, that is the vibe here. It's so unworldly and it's so alluring, but yet so disturbing at the same time. And I love Travis's animated shrieks on here, and then goes into like this slow-pitched melodic vocal. The song Sirens, which is probably one of the most epic tracks on here, kicks off with this anthemic glam rock sample that sounds so ascending, so uplifting, and then goes right into this epic Zamrock sample that has this clanging percussion. It sounds like Travis is going into battle mode here, and the syncopation is great. And then it goes into this moody guitar strumming with these chipmunk-like yells. I know on paper that sounds terrible, but it actually sounds really great. And the repetition and speed just goes on 10. No, it goes on 11. It goes on 11 and it sounds like it's about to explode on impact right in my ears. And again, I know that sounds very flawed on paper, but they definitely make it work here. And then it goes into this neo-psych direction with this guitar style that's so summery and atmospheric. And with that style, I'm like, I have heard this style before. I've heard this sound palette before. And I'm like, it sounds like something Rat-a-tat would have done. And lo and behold, Rat-a-tat produced it. Rat-a-tat did the guitar work. And due to Rat-a-tat contributing to a lot of Cudi's past work, and Travis's inspiration being Kid Cudi, a huge inspiration to him, his mentor in a way. Along with Ye, I think this makes this one of the most important tracks on the album. And I feel he incorporates the influences very tastefully here. And even has a highlight with Cuddy later on. The ending skit does make me cringe a little though, where him and this woman go into a hotel room and she's like, "I thought you were taking me to Utopia." And then he tries to convince her that his bedroom is Utopia. It's a real eye roll. It's poorly acted, but other than that, I think this track is a highlight. The track Meltdown, which is kind of like Sicko Mode 2, just a little bit. Sinister trap beat. And it sounds like Drake is out for blood here. Like he actually has a purpose. Like NyQuil Poppy is no longer Champagne Poppy. He is Red Bull Poppy on here. He is Hennessy Poppy on here, and he is out for revenge, no question. And he is just getting at Push here. Oh, he cannot let it go. He cannot let it go. And Drake does deliver some shots, and I will say they have heat here. Then it goes into like this dramatic thumping bass, going into this hyped up chorus. Is you fucking crazy? Is you fucking crazy? That could probably start a circle pit in a show. In a local show, not a big show. Do not fucking start a mosh pit at a huge show. Thank you. I feel like this has almost become tradition here where Drake hops on a track with Travis to make a diss track. And it would seem Travis is throwing his fair of shots as well at this person, Timothy. I'm probably pronouncing that name horribly. Has been rumored to be dating his ex and mother of his child, Kylie Jenner. There is one line that makes me wince a little, like saying, "He'll shoot you like the baby at Walmart." Aside from that, I think this track is a banger. I do love the dramatic psychedelic energy this track brings, and the haunting guitar strummed outro is just fantastic. Now, unfortunately, at this part of the album, I do feel like we get a little astroworlded. And that is right, I did say astroworlded. That is finally a word. That is a word we are putting in the dictionary, and it is solidified. It is a thing. There we get some of the weaker tracks, but not consistently weak. We do get some strong tracks in the mix, but the track Fiend has one of the worst features on here. I do like the spiraling synth arpeggios on the hook though. But Cardi sounds immensely goofy on here. Like, what is he doing? Going from high pitch to low pitch? He sounds so goofy on here. He sounds like an AI Kermit doing a Future cover. And he says he has flows for days, but I hope to God this is the last time he uses this one. Also, the track Del Arresto was a single going into this, and pretty much one that left me underwhelmed, honestly. It features Beyonce, and it ends up sounding, it honestly sounds like a Renaissance leftover. And I know that Renaissance is a great album, I do love that album, but this sounds like a track on here that just didn't make it. Like, I don't think it brings that epicness and that flavor that Renaissance had, and I don't think it complements the album at all. It just kind of drags, it just kind of meanders. And I'm just hoping it evolves into something, like some big explosion like I would get on Renaissance. But no, it's an explosion that never comes. Things do pick up though on probably the most self-aware track on the album I know, with probably the most stickiest refrain on the album. I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know. Speedy charismatic flow and hook of sharing his self-awareness of substance abuse, not being the ideal partner, and showing how he could be prone to infidelity. And it doesn't have much in terms of development, but it's still chilling. And again, has a memorable refrain, but it's also very introspective. It's a lot of introspection coming from Travis, which he does very well on this. We then get the banger, Topia Twins, which has this futuristic, icy, blaring sets of keys, these haunting melodies in the background, these passionate ad-libs, and very strong back and forth from Rob49 and Travis. Rob49, he has definitely had a streak when it comes to features. I'm honestly looking forward to what he has coming down the pipe. And the bars from him. He says, "The way I shoot my shot at these whores, I know I fucked my shoulder up." At the midpoint, we get these wintry organs. And 21 Savage coming in, giving us this cold-blooded verse with one clever bar after the next. And I love the humorous ad-libs between 21's bars from Travis. How he talks about his stroke game, and then you got Travis in the background going, "Perfect." Travis ends this off really well with the production, getting more and more triumphant as it goes on. And I love the bar deep in her throat, "Till she tear, I'm her favorite beverage." Or ass thick when she walks, she got surround sound. Trying to ride me like a wave, I'm a drown. And I feel Travis normally makes the mistake of letting his guests go first. But on here, he actually shines and holds his own with his features on here. And the hook is killer, super memorable. Jet ski. It's a summer winter banger. Unfortunately, as I alluded to earlier, there is Yeezus-esque songs on here. I feel like they're trying to remake these in a way. And as I talked about before, Modern Jam is definitely I Am a God redone and done well. Unfortunately, I cannot say the same for Circus Maximus, where it does not add much to the original. Abel isn't really bringing much vocally here, unfortunately. And Black Skinhead is a absolute banger, definitely one of the best tracks off Yeezus. So with a track so good, you want to make sure that you are on par with it. Unfortunately, he is not on par with this much at all. We do get the inclusion of some synths, but they're very weak, very generic. I really could have done without this track. And honestly, it just sounds like a bland version of Black Skinhead without Ye. And no, I'm not advocating for Ye to be on this song, especially with his white supremacy shit. And we get this weird self-affirmation monologue from Dave Chappelle. I mean, is this what he plays to himself while he's driving alone, trying to make himself feel better after his garbage ass takes? Saying he'll forgive himself. I mean, after the pretty cringe transphobic comments and the turf talk and the NIMBY shit, you forgive yourself? Good for you. But probably the worst, most unnecessary feature on here is Young Lean. His verse holds like no water here, and especially on a track called Parasail. Parasail, water, get it? Where it's so bland, he's falling asleep at the wheel. And when you're pre-sailing, you should not be falling asleep at the wheel. It honestly shouldn't even be on here. The song Schizo does have star power, and given how animated Young Thug and Travis Scott is, you would think this track would be fireworks. But it just ends up turning into a contest of who could make me fall asleep the fastest. There is a beat switch up, but I feel it's definitely derailed by Travis's garbage ass cringe bar, Yay over Biden. Ugh. And look, I get it. I'm not really a Biden stan myself. But given how Ye is a proclaimed Nazi, and given how he aligns himself with white supremacists, and pretty much follows along the same policies as Trump or DeSantis, do you really want Ye over Biden? No. I didn't think so. Not to mention how forgettable a lot of the melodies are on this track. Now, the song Lost Forever is a stroke of genius. It's like a mix of the hypnotic, atmospheric vibe that Travis goes for with a mix of grime. Goes into this super gritty, psychedelic beat switch up. And Westside eats on here. I'm telling you, like, this song right here, I would say is revolutionary for the Griselda sound, for gangsta music in general. If their new stuff sounds like this sonically, I am here for it. And the song Looove, as I alluded to earlier, is one mind-bending track that starts with a heavy groove and these distorted dissonant keys, goes into this super panoramic hazy break that just makes me feel like I'm being sucked in down to a hole into this void and then back up to the land. And the production on here and the syncopation just brings me to that feeling. This rush of like ominous bass, I can't really tell if it's like distorted bass or distorted low-pitched vocals. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. And then we get these buzzing synths, these beautiful melodies, these beautiful leads, this smoky, beady verse from Cudi. It's half rapped, half sung. The whole track is like running through a spacious galactic maze. It's basically like running through the mind of Kid Cudi and Travis while high off the most psychedelic drug known to man. And definitely another highlight in terms of collabs with Cudi and Travis. The song K-Pop is another single that has not grown on me. The song is so unmemorable. The only song that sticks out for me, and for the wrong reason, is the Abel verse because of that gross Korean tsunami bar. The song Telekinesis, we get this very confessional verse from Future, probably the most confessional I've probably heard him in a while. And this dark cavernous passage that we hear with Travis. I find it clever how he says, "I see the future," after the verse with Future. And this could be Future or SZA reflecting their thoughts. But the real showstopper here is SZA, with her passionately bold vocals and very defiant synth horns. Pulsating synths. And you could make the argument that this is an interpolation of Marvin's Room from Drake, but I think she did it better. It ends off with this gorgeously dark set of strings. And honestly, the album should have ended here. But then we get Till Further Notice, with an appearance from James Blake, who normally shines beautifully on a Travis Scott song, but on here, they really missed the mark. Like, he has these effects on his vocals, and they sound awful. Like, they sound so pitchy and processed. What is going on here? And we get this faux sentimental, very phoned in verse from 21 Savage where he's playing the nice guy angle, like, I should have been there, oh, you hurt me, oh, I should have done better. Which I don't think 21 does well. Production is pretty basic and not the epic outro this album deserved. So yeah, overall, I did enjoy this album. Aside from that, I do think it's better than Birds in the Trap, because that was trash. I do think that it's better than Astroworld, which was decent, not one of his best, but I don't think it's better than Rodeo. I don't think it's on the same level as Rodeo. However, I do think Travis is getting more creative with his sound. I do think he's getting better solo-wise on here, and he's really bringing those magic, delicious sonic servings with more flavor here. I feel like this time around, though, the features falter, and sometimes the production isn't really that great. And some lyrics, definitely getting better. There are some cringe lyrics here and there are bangers on here. There are some eye-opening moments. But is this a perfect album? No, but I do think it's decent. And I do think that, again, I would say this is his second best album. And I am feeling a 3.5 out of 5 on this album. I enjoyed it. Don't hate me. That's just my opinion. But what did you think? Did you love this album? Did you hate this album? And why? Because I think it's good. Travis Scott, Utopia, Caspa, Gothic Ghost. Till we meet again.